Cinderella became queen at 19. By 22, she had everything she once prayed for. The strange part wasn't that she missed her old life. It was who she missed it with. You know that feeling when you finally get the thing you wanted for years, and instead of relief, you just feel hollow? Like the version of you who wanted it so badly is a stranger now, and you're left holding a prize that doesn't fit your hands anymore. That was Ella, 4 years after the ball. The castle was warm. The staff were kind. Her husband, the prince, was attentive in the careful, scheduled way that men raised to rule tend to be. Everything was exactly as the story promised. And yet, almost every night, Ella found herself standing at the window of her old bedroom in the east wing, looking out toward the small stone cottage at the edge of the kingdom, the cottage where she had grown up, the cottage where her stepmother still lived, alone. Here is the part of the story nobody tells you. After the wedding, Ella's stepmother was not exiled. She was not punished. She simply withdrew. She stopped attending court. She sold the family's remaining horses. She let the garden grow wild. And every week, without fail, a basket of bread arrived at the castle kitchens with no note, no name, nothing, except a small sprig of rosemary tied with red thread. The kitchen staff assumed it was a tradition from a local farmer. Ella knew better. Rosemary had been her mother's plant, her real mother, the one who died when Ella was 6. That was clue number 1, and at the time it meant almost nothing to her. Because Ella had a different problem, a bigger one. She couldn't remember her wedding night. Not the dress, not the dance, not the carriage ride home. She remembered the clock striking midnight at the ball, the slipper, running down the stairs in a panic. And then, nothing. A gap. Until she woke up 3 days later in the castle, already engaged, already being fitted for a crown, already being told how lucky she was. When she asked the prince about it, he laughed gently and said the excitement of the night had simply overwhelmed her. People forget things during the happiest moments of their lives, he told her. It's normal. It didn't feel normal. It felt like a door that had been quietly shut and locked behind her. So Ella started asking questions. Carefully. The way you do when you suspect the people around you might not want you asking. She started with the fairy godmother. Now here's something the old versions of this story conveniently leave out. In several of the darker, older retellings, the ones told in cold farmhouses long before anyone added singing mice, the figure who helps the heroine isn't a godmother at all. In some versions, it's the spirit of the girl's dead mother, returning through a tree planted on her grave. In others, it's a white bird that perches above her and drops down a gown each night, then vanishes before dawn, refusing to be looked at directly. The help was always real, but the helper was never fully present, never fully seen, always something that had to leave before midnight, before anyone could ask it too many questions. Ella had always assumed the midnight deadline was about the magic running out. Clue number 2. It wasn't about the magic at all. It was about the prince's guards starting their shift change at midnight. The fairy godmother needed Ella gone before anyone in uniform got a clear look at her face. Ella didn't understand why that mattered. Not yet. She kept digging. She found an old ledger in the castle archive. Financial records from 4 years ago, the year of the ball. Buried in the expenses was a payment, a large one, paid out the week after the wedding, to a woman whose name had been crossed out and rewritten. The original name, faintly visible underneath the correction, was her stepmother's. Why would the palace pay her stepmother a fortune the week after disowning her stepdaughter? This is where most people, and most versions of this story, want you to believe something simple. That the stepmother was cruel, jealous, and finally bribed into silence after losing custody of Ella. That she took the money out of spite or desperation and slithered off to live in shame. The wicked woman, paid to disappear. Case closed. Story over. Cue the happy ending. Ella believed that too for a while. It was the easiest explanation. It fit everything she'd been told her whole life. The stepmother was the villain. The stepmother had always been the villain. Why would this be any different? But then came clue number 3. While going through her late father's belongings, things that had been quietly moved to the castle after his death, things Ella had never been allowed to look through before, she found a letter, unsent, dated the year her real mother died. In it, her father wrote to a woman he described as the only person who has ever told me the truth about what's coming for this family. He thanked her for watching over the girl, even when it cost her everything. He signed it with words Ella had never heard her father use about anyone. The letter wasn't addressed to a stranger. It was addressed to the woman Ella had spent 16 years believing hated her. So Ella did the one thing the story never expects her to do. She went home. She walked, alone, without guards, down the long road to the cottage at the edge of the kingdom. And she found her stepmother sitting in the overgrown garden, exactly where the rosemary still grew, looking older and smaller than Ella remembered, but unmistakably alive with relief the moment she saw her. And then the truth came out. All of it. Here is what really happened. Ella's real mother hadn't died of illness. She had died trying to break a curse, an old binding placed on the women of her bloodline generations ago, one that activated the moment a daughter of that line married into royalty. The curse didn't punish the girl directly. It was crueler than that. It erased her, slowly, memory by memory. Starting with the night of the marriage itself and spreading backward year by year until the woman it took eventually forgot who she had even been before the crown. Ella's mother had seen this coming for her daughter and made a choice. She found someone willing to anchor Ella to her old life, someone the curse wouldn't think to suspect, because the curse only watched for love. It never thought to watch for someone playing the role of the villain. That's who the stepmother became, on purpose, with Ella's dying mother's blessing. The cruelty wasn't real. The favoritism toward the stepsisters wasn't real either. It was theater, performed in front of a household full of servants who gossiped, performed so convincingly that even the curse itself was fooled into looking elsewhere. The fairy godmother wasn't magic in the traditional sense. She was the only person who could move freely between the cottage and the castle without suspicion, and every dress, every spell, every midnight deadline was designed around one single goal: get Ella to the ball, get her seen by the prince, but get her home again before the curse could lock onto the marriage and begin. It almost worked. The plan failed by one night. One single night, the night Ella married the prince anyway, out of love, faster than anyone expected, before the protections could be finished. The curse activated. The memory loss began. The gap in Ella's wedding night wasn't romance. It was the curse taking its first bite. And the payment in the ledger, the bribe Ella had assumed, was an act of cruelty erased into money, was the opposite. It was Ella's mother's entire remaining inheritance, finally released to the stepmother as payment for 16 years of playing the villain so a little girl could grow up safe, loved in secret, and hated in public for her own protection. The rosemary in every basket of bread wasn't a tradition. It was the only plant strong enough to slow the curse's spread, a small weekly act of magic disguised as kindness from a stranger, sent by a woman the palace had been taught to ignore. Every basket had been an act of love, smuggled past guards who would never suspect bread. Now go back to the beginning. The wicked stepmother, working her stepdaughter to exhaustion, keeping her so busy with chores she had no time to think about a curse that fed on idle hope. The locked door at midnight, not a trap, but the only way to get Ella out of the castle before the curse could fully take hold. The stepsisters' cruelty, a performance rehearsed in a kitchen by people who loved Ella enough to be hated by her for years. The villain was never the villain. She was the only one who showed up. Ella stayed in that garden until the sun went down. And for the first time in 4 years, she didn't feel hollow. You know that feeling. The one where you finally understand that the person who seemed hardest on you, who never said the soft thing, who never explained themselves, was the only one actually fighting for you the whole time, while everyone else was busy being kind to your face. Sometimes the people who love us the most don't get to look like it. Sometimes love has to wear a costume so ugly that nobody, Not even the thing trying to destroy you would ever think to look there. Ella didn't break the curse that day. That would take longer, and it would cost both of them more before it was over. But she stopped looking for the villain in the story. Because Cinderella became queen at 19, and by 22 she finally understood the only thing she'd ever truly needed to find her way home was already standing in the garden, waiting the whole time.